I think it's a learning moment for a lot of us. Could you walk us a little bit through the story of this particular listing and kind of what the challenges are with the offers and some of the things that you're doing to vet buyers?
Okay, so this property, was bought in 2017 by the client. They actually lived in the property only 9 months before, we had horrendous rainstorms in September of 2018, more rain in a month than we've had in, 20 years. So it flooded.
When the 100-meter floodplain's all flooded.
It is in a floodway, which is within a floodplain. So that means this property, you cannot demolish the house, it's a 1968 house. You can't demolish it, but you can remodel it, it's been grandfathered in. So you can build up, but you have to raise the house like 3 to 4 feet. So that's been probably the biggest thing that people don't understand. If they don't, I've had a lot of builders look at it, quite a few, I think. Then I've had people that, don't know what they're doing. And I had somebody say, yeah, we'll probably put about 100,000 into it. So you understand it's gonna be like 150,000 just to raise it. But, so the two offers that we're looking at, one is a cash offer, it's quite a bit lower than what, what we listed it for. And they're an investment group by Houston. One of the challenges has been the floodplain manager went on vacation last week. And so that has stalled things because I put in my write-up, I put in the MLS that, you need to talk to him. Yeah, then he goes on vacation, he gets back today. So, that has held up some of the offers, I know, because they don't have anybody else to talk to in the city.
And so I really appreciate the due diligence that you've done in prepping this listing, guys. And what you have to understand, guys, is it's a big deal. Like that the home you're gonna have to raise, right? Like the amount of upfront capital. And a lot of people are looking at the property thinking, oh, I can just tear it down and rebuild. Well, you can't, because if you do, then you have to build it to current standards, and you may not even be able to build at all, is what the city has been telling. So Sharon's done a lot of due diligence and worked very closely with the city of Flower Mound to understand what can and can't be done, so that when she marketed the sale of the property, she had all that information to be able to disclose to potential buyers. So being sure, especially if you've got something that's a potential tear down, that you know what can be done there is really, really important, because you could end up selling a house to someone who then can't do anything they thought they could do on that property, and then we end up in a lawsuit because we didn't properly disclose, right? And so to the point where Sharon's not, here's your contact in the city of Flower Mound, I am not going to entertain your offer until you, buyer, have done your proper due diligence, because this is the kind of deal that gets you sued. Okay, so making sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's is very, very important. Thank you, Sharon, for letting me take on you.
I tried to weed out well, I don't know much about, I'm like, this is not the property for you,
This is my first flip, not
You
the
know.
property for you.
Yeah, well, and between that and, okay, here's the building planning and inspection department, you need to talk to Matthew there. Here's Blake at floodplain, you need to talk here. So, like I said, there's been a boatload of interest, but it's weeding out who you think are real potential buyers for this. And again, it's held up. I've got a couple yet more over and above these two that have made offers that are just waiting to talk to the city.
Right. Now,
Well.
Diane, you had a question.
Yeah, hey Sharon, it's Diane. Hey, I have a question for you. This is, of course, I have questions, so this is really detailed. So anyway, are you having to add other documents in the transaction desk other than declaring the floodplain, stuff like that? Are you having to do
Yes,
Okay,
there
yeah.
is one document that the buyers have to sign that the city, flood, manager requires.
Nice.
And I know that based on partly, well, one, I talked to him, but partly based on my clients really did a lot of, I mean, you know, they started the lifting process. I mean, if you look at the property, it's got 3x3 huge holes all around the outside and throughout the inside on how it was gonna be lifted. So I did get the document that they presented, that the contractor at the time presented to the city. It was 104 pages, and I read every single one of them. And that's then when the city came back and said, this is what we need yet. And that was one of the documents that I pulled up and I added to it. So I did add that. I had an elevation document that I added, though I gotta say, one of the potential buyers actually has already sent a surveyor out at his own expense to do the elevation and a survey on the property.
And to go,
But
oh, sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
I'm trying to think of what else that
But did you hear that? They went ahead as part of their due diligence as a buyer,
yeah.
sent the survey out. They said, I don't care. Like, my due diligence, I understand what's happening here, right? So the inspections are different. So when your client asks you, what inspections do you do? Well, I don't know, it depends. What kind of inspections do you need? Based on the property we're looking at and what you need to make an educated decision on purchasing this home. In this situation, that is actually a really great survey.
And one last question, Sharon, and then I'll let it go. So with those documents that you have in transaction desk, are you requiring the buyers to initial everything regardless that they have seen it? Or, you know, just moving forward to know that they acknowledge that you disclosed everything?
Right.
I put in offer instructions.
Yeah.
And so I tell them when they make their offer, they need to include da 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 da.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, Sharon. Shane, what else we got?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, 10,000 Mason Street in Aubrey. This one's listed for $340 basically.
It's under contract,
It's under contract.
pending.
Awesome. Congrats.
Right.
But she has an incomplete, I have an incomplete. You said last week we need to change it to pending, but
Yeah,
you do?
Yeah, yours needs to be pending now.
right. You need to make it pending and then close it.
Okay.
If
On the
not, I'm
list.
gonna keep talking about it every week. They're gonna tell me, oh, it's sold. Or tell Jason to cancel it, something.
Can we cancel it?
No, but it has to be
Okay, so
recorded
that's,
as it closed.
okay.
But sometimes you duplicate incomings and then those need to be canceled, right? Or the listing terminates or stuff like that.
You sold it?
Hey Terry, you wanna talk about it?
Or Maria.
Sure. This one finally, we are doing photos this week, coming soon, Monday, active on Wednesday or Thursday of next week. We have the price at $480. It's right by Celebration Park in Allen.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I hope to hold an open house next Saturday. If anybody would want to do the open house, let me know.
I'll do it with you.
Okay. Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
What else we got?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Anybody have something that we haven't talked about? Tom.
I've got one coming on Friday. No, Saturday. It'll be on MLS. 9472 Wichita Trail in the trails of West Frisco. $499, 2,400 square feet, all bedrooms up on a cul-de-sac. Wakeland zone.
Okay. And how much did you say?
$499.
$499.
$499.
It's not bad.
Are you out of your
It's
mind?
not bad.
That's a good price. You need some TLC.
What, Janae?
I was gonna say, I believe I'll have another one coming in a couple weeks in Frisco, 2,500 square foot with a pool, remodeled really nice,
North face.
B&T in El Dorado.
North face.
Not sure, yeah.
Okay.
Are you?
I know Caitlin's got one coming in the tribute. If you have something coming that,
Caitlin has an attribute?
Nice.
That's good.
yeah, she's working on finalizing listing.
I've got one coming up
Fantastic.
in Sutton Fields, north facing, really big house. It's 5 bedroom, 5 bath, media room, game room. I'm not sure where we're listing it yet, probably around 7.
Anybody else? Okay. Tom, since we're taking advantage of listing moments to learn, you also have a very unique property. It's not every day we list a $4 million home.
Right.
Would you mind
Sort of, yeah.
sharing some of the growing pains and kind of little things you've picked up from working in that price point?
Oh gosh. It is competitive. I mean, most of the people looking at it now are looking to build in that price point. So we're competing against the builder. The only reason they're looking at ours, and we kind of had an idea of this, the only reason they're looking at ours is because it can be moved in 30 days. And the builder is gonna take 20 months to 24 months in this price point to build, is what we're understanding. So unless we get someone that needs immediate, it's gonna be hard to get this price, I think, full list. That's what we're learning.
And as
But if we get a California buyer that doesn't have that kind of timing, that's what we're hoping for, if there's any out there left, which I think there are.
There are.
And what are some of the things as far as like procedural, like showing and writing offers that you've seen that is a little different than you would your $300,000 house in the colony, right?
I have to be there,
Okay, so agent to meet.
for you to meet, there's no sign in the yard, they don't want a sign in the yard. And, I don't know, no lockbox, but you be there, you gotta be there to answer any questions. And the other agent wants you there, cause there's a big old house, so they want, does it have piers? I mean, all these things, there's a lot that goes into building a massive home like that.
So
Yeah.
what are some things that you did to like bone up and study for the property? Like what are some things that?
Just, you know, what kind of air conditioning system does it have? What kind of insulation package does it have? Does it have, what kind of, I got the pier structure underneath the house, what the pier drawing looks like, and I send that to the prospective buyer agent. know,
Did you
things
meet
like
with the
that.
builder or you met with the homeowner?
I met with the homeowner.
Mm.
The homeowner has had those things, but he went to the builder and got them right away. Survey is a big thing. We don't have a survey. We have a survey, but the old title companies is crazy. It doesn't even have a, lawyers doesn't have a survey with the house on it. They have a survey with a stamp, but no house on it, but just a boundary. I'm like, that doesn't help me.
It doesn't.
But like, how did he close on that house?
Well, that's common, to be honest. So, I mean, I did a custom build, right? And we didn't have a survey with a completed house on it when we closed. You didn't need it.
Right.
Because if you're paying cash,
No, they didn't pay cash. They had a loan.
well, they built though, right?
Right, but they still had a loan on the property. You would think that investor would require a full-blown survey.
No, they don't. No, not when you do a new custom build.
I thought that's new.
That's interesting.
That's new to me. I mean, every Huntington or Highland or Drees,
You've always had one.
you
Yeah.
So,
even within you have to have a final
Did
grade
they
survey.
own the land first and then get the construction loan?
Yeah, that's my question. Is if it
Oh.
was a construction loan?
Yeah, the land, you can see the land was purchased
Yeah.
in MLS.
Then that's why.
That's
what
probably
it
why.
is. It was, they
Absolutely.
closed on
So
the
there's
land. and
There was not a
then-
one-time close. It was maybe
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, it was like
Probably
two.
more like a three, one
Well,
on
Kevin-
the land
Kevin
and
should know.
two-part
Well,
construction.
what
You're
I
the mortgage
think,
guy.
so what my
I was
lender
telling you
did,
right now.
well, and I think it was Cardinal Financial that closed on our final loan, is they just went on builder specs.
Mhm.
You didn't need a survey.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so Amy's got a big one like this too that has almost like a 3-part close. That's kind of part of it.
Well, now we don't even know. We got a buyer that wants to build a mother-in-law suite and pool cabana.
Mhm.
We don't know if we can build it or not. If there's a
Right.
building line,
Setbacks, yeah.
you know, we don't know.
So that would be buyer's due diligence to get a survey if that's what they want.
Right. And then also be aware that like you have to, in this price point, you need to provide proof of funds before you even get it.
Okay, my next point.
Yeah.
I don't require that,
Mhm.
but based on what my seller said, but I vet them. And then, I had one agent just send it to me automatic.
Because it's customary.
And then the California buyer, if they're gonna go video, we had both agreed that the buyer, the seller said, hey, I wanna see proof of funds before I let them
Video.
video.
Right.
And they never called me back.
I'm not surprised.
And especially if you're gonna do a video tour, before you can accept an offer, they need to actually physically see the property in person.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've already told them, anybody who, I suggested to my seller, I recommend before you execute with anybody that they have to physically be on the property at some time or another before contract.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's cool.
What was your question, Diane?
So what I've seen in my bigger ranch listing is investors, a group, you know, because when it's in that millions of dollars, they get a bunch of them together to try to invest. So what I've learned is that they'll send a proof of, like a lender letter, but it'll be real generic, and I'm already like, okay, wait, I need more detail, you know, because my client is, I mean, he wants to see that before we even show it.
Right.
So, the realtor for the investor group told me that they like to get it under contract first and then go get financing. I said, no, that doesn't work here. Well, they tried to do that to Terry and I's place.
Right.
But they went ahead and got the lender letter from somebody out on the East Coast. And we're like, we can't even talk to anybody there because the buyer had released the information, you know, so it was okay to talk to us.
Right.
And then they said LLC, and I said, well, that's commercial. So here we go, but I changing everything in the middle. Luckily for us, it worked out because we were on top of them every day. But that kind of stuff it can get a little, it's like, I don't wanna say shady, but it's just,
You're right, because when you're dealing with those large amounts of money,
Mhm.
right, there's a lot of little maneuvering that happens that you do have to do a little extra due diligence on. And sometimes there's legitimate reasons why they can't, right? So we have another client who has a trust that's supposed to be paying out, they're a buyer, and the trust has taken almost 3 months to pay. And so they're in a buyer lease back and all kinds of weird stuff because they're just waiting on the trust to approve that this is the kind of property that they'll allow them to spend $1.4 million on, right?
and I required him to have to see it in person, and I had an investor come with his realtor, and he was not happy about it. Well, I buy them all the time like that, and I said, I'm sure you do. Do you do a lot of these properties? You know, just trying to skate over it, but I said, you know, it's really for your protection, and most of all, my seller's protection. You have to physically see what you're doing.
The best right there. That's the best.
Yeah.
It's what
Passive aggressive way.
And no matter the price tag, right?
Yeah.
Because you've gotta do the due diligence on the $60,000 lot too, right? And the $300,000 listing. So when you have your buyer's agent's hats, right, you're doing your due diligence to get properties inspected and those kinds of things. Once you're under contract, the seller's stuck. So our due diligence period is before contract. It's calling those lenders, checking those letters of intent if you're in the high price point, or your lender letters, right? Whatever they may be, your job as a listing agent is to thoroughly vet as much as possible every offer that comes across your table, so that when you're sitting in front of that seller, you can say, I talked to this lender, this is where they are in the process. I looked at that third-party financing, and there's no way they're gonna be able to close at 3% in this market, so we need to request that to be approved. That's where we bring most of our value, more so than just marketing.
Yeah, you said it right there. It's like everything before, because once they get under contract, if they haven't seen the property and they just want to get it under contract, they'll come during the auction period. Oh, it's not what I thought. And then, you know, then what do you look like? You know, you just have to.
We showed this house before. He showed it to somebody before I listed it to a buyer agent, and he was just trying to impress the girlfriend. Is what we figured out. So he never called back. The agent was all excited, talking to me, this, that, and the other. And now she's just making excuses because it's happened before. I know that happens where the guy tries to impress the girlfriend, and they're kind of mentally unstable. and they do this with these big properties. No, seriously,
But
it happens.
Even if they're not, look, sometimes it's just a matter of being able to have the social media post that they were in this kind of house.
You have some
right?
crazies out there, I'm just
So
telling
you
you.
It's a whole
really,
different
especially
ball of
when
wax,
you get
isn't
into
it? A whole
the
nother
higher
dark web
price
out there.
points, you have to protect your sellers
Crazy.
and do those due diligence.
We had one time on the high end where they wanted to come from California and they wanted to make it a rehab, a high-end rehab, but they were gonna change property type. But you can't assume you can do that, so what they'll do is tie up the property first,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
try to do the legal side, and
Correct.
find out, nope, and then I wanna cut free. And that was on, I think it was Heather. Heather had the investors, and that's what they were doing, that was their model, and they could show it. You can do it in some states, but you can't in Texas.
So just be cautious, guys. Now, with inspections, we've got home inspections, so we're gonna go through some scenarios and see what you guys think. So, this is more buyer due diligence, right? If I bypass an option period, am I still able to have a home inspection?
Yes.
So no option in the contract. Kevin, why?
It's still, they are allowed to do their due diligence on the property that they're buying.
So an option period is not my inspection period. Please don't tell that to your buyer. Your option period is your unrestricted right to terminate. It's my cold feet period. I can have a dream, and the dream told me that the house was gonna catch on fire, and therefore I am going to terminate this contract. That is a valid reason to terminate a contract during an option period.
That's
Yes.
happened, by the way. That's
It
real.
happens.
That's a real thing.
People have visions.
I just
happens.
doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Right? Right? So being able to, that's what your option period is for. It's your cold feet. It's your buyer's remorse period. It is not tied to your inspection. So if they remove the inspection, the seller still has to allow reasonable access to the property to do a home inspection. Is measuring for rooms considered an inspection?
No.
Of which the seller needs to allow reasonable access.
They can.
I guess it's part of it, but just their due diligence on my couch video. Well, yeah, I had that happen a lot. You know,
Yes.
Just for measurements?
Yep.
Yeah, I let them in.
Sellers need to get off their high horse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chill
It's
out.
not your
Chill
house
out.
anymore.
That's
What
right.
I-
They need to know if they're custom antique, that they bought this house thinking it's gonna look great in this room, actually
With
fits.
grandmas.
With
big
grandmas and
expensive-
whatnot. It's part of their, now, coming 3 times a day to measure for a week, is that reasonable? No, so then we come back to what is reasonable, right? So keep that in mind, you do have to allow them to measure, but they don't have to come to measure every 5 times they decide to go on Amazon, right? Like, that's not how that works. So, I'm unable to leave work to attend an inspection. Can you attend it for me? That's what the client says to you, Realtor. What are your thoughts?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I go.
Absolutely.
Represent.
They still
Okay.
need to talk to
So
them.
what are the hiccups, the landmines you have to avoid when doing this?
Explaining any of the repairs or suggestions by the inspector. We're not inspectors, so I will go, of course, if they can. I go if they do go. You know, that last hour or whatever. But then once they have any questions, they need to call the inspector.
There you go. That's
And I
the thing.
mean,
I'll tell you the things that he told me were big button issues.
right.
But when you look at the report and you have any questions, we need to do a conference call with the inspector so he can explain them to you, right? Because that's where we get in trouble, is putting on a hat that's not ours,
Oh no, huh?
okay?
And Francis,
Yes, Sharon?
yeah, I was just gonna say, and this is kind of common, like I have California buyers, and they were just here and went back, and so hopefully when we get a house under contract, they aren't coming back for the inspection. So they're like, will you be at it? Yeah. You know, and then like you said, then it's, okay, then we can do a 3-way with the inspector if you have any questions.
You can even do the FaceTime. All right, me and the
Yes.
inspector are gonna do a virtual walkthrough with you
Yeah.
of the inspection report. Try the best you can to get them that FaceTime with the inspector and the
a new home.
Right?
That's a,
So what?
I said, it's a waste of money. It's a brand new home. Why do you need inspection?
So do you think you don't need an inspection, Janae, for a new home? Tell me why I need one.
She was being facetious.
I gracefully disagree.
I recommend it every time. Obviously some of the builders don't allow you to come in. I have one now that said you can't have a inspection until the very end.
For the final walk?
We'll recommend at that point doing one at the very end and then again one at the 11-month period before that warranty ends. But I think with what's happened in the last year or two, it's more important now than ever to
Janae, what's
get a home.
happened in the last year or two?
Oh gosh, there's been all kinds of issues with supplies and with contractors, and honestly, I kind of agree and feel this way, and a lot of people say that the quality of builds has probably gone down in the last year or two, just because it's been a nightmare.
They're in a hurry.
Yep. So you're having crews walk off, leave things halfway done, someone else is picking up where they think the other crew left off. And it's normal, right? Things get missed, things don't get done correctly, right? So making sure that you do at least that final walkthrough with a true punch list, more so than what we can blue tape, right? Because us as agents, all we can really see is what we can see with our naked eye. So I can see the paint drips, I can see the things that don't open, but I don't know what else is happening. And I know if you can get inspections done before sheetrock, that is ideal, because once those walls go up, there's certain things that you can't properly inspect anymore.
And foundation,
And
if they're doing complete new build from ground up.
Yeah. Some of them nowadays, like when Highland was here, they said they were already laying foundation before they even laid contracts. You may not be able to do that, but if you can get that pre-sheetrock inspection done and then that final at a minimum, that would be really helpful. Even if they just sneak in with your client and one of the appointments. Really push
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. On that note, I would say it's really, really important to make sure that you are getting them in time. They cannot hold up the build process. You have to have permission with the builder. And then make sure that you're not, I would say make sure that you're not being too picky necessarily. Like you have to be careful in, making everything work between the builder and your clients. You're not there to cause waves, but you want to make sure things go smooth and that they are protected if there are serious things that need to be corrected.
And for the most part, to your point, right, the builders, they want to fix it. They don't want it to be shoddy work, right? And so you do have to make sure that you're not a difficult agent to work with, and that's exactly what we heard from Highland when they were here. That agents that are nice, that make my job easier, those are the ones I'm putting under contract.
It happened to Darlene.
It did. All right, I received the inspection report. What are items that you think are important to address with the seller?
Oh, man.
What do you say here?
I think safety, anything safety.
Well, say the
That's
inspector highlighted the one, it says Yeah. right here.
Careful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what you think is a safety issue, they may not think is a safety issue. Let's look at the report. They identified incomplete or what the deficient and and they've created this whole grid for us to be able to identify what are things that we need to address or not address. Based on your conversation with the inspector, was there anything that caught your attention? In this situation, reply with questions and not with answers. And get them to tell you what their concerns are.
And that's been extra hard this year, right?
Mhm.
With all the competition, getting, they don't wanna negotiate repairs. So you have to prepare your buyers, hey, you kinda let them know what the conditions are in the market and how that can be effective.
Right. With Shane, you had this exact scenario with
On
your attorneys.
Multiple houses.
Yeah.
So we went through 3 houses. Every single inspection, they're looking at houses that were built in 2004. If you don't know, the electrical code has changed 4 times since 2004. So why is that important? My clients want the house brought up to code. Is that ever going to happen?
Oh boy, it's the driver's spot.
Absolutely not. So the inspector, they'll open up the electrical panel. And back in 2004, all of the wiring comes in through one hole in the electrical panel and then gets dispersed all over. Well, new code, they want all of those wires to come through separate holes. You have to rewire the whole panel to bring it up to code. $3,000 minimum. Is any seller going to do that? No, because it's not a safety issue. But my clients, they felt it was a safety issue.
It's marked as a safety issue because it's not up to code.
Kickbacks.
Right? So making sure that you have some of those conversations, right? And understanding what is a reasonable ask in a multiple offer situation where there's 20 backups waiting for you to screw it up, right? And how much do you really love this house? How much is this gonna keep you from living comfortably? Is this something that you could address post-closing, right? Having those conversations, be very, very careful to throw your opinions in there too often. Because if they want to terminate, yes sir, let's terminate. We'll terminate 3 times if we have to, but I may fire you, as Shane tried to do with that client.
I did. I actually did try to fire them.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Crack seam mortar.
So don't
That is
order or schedule the home inspection for your clients. Have them tell you when they can and try to give them the contact information, but if you go online and do it, make sure you coordinate it at the time with them. Don't just say, it's scheduled at this time, show up, okay? Make sure that there's a lot of collaboration with the client in the scheduling. Do provide reliable vendors for recommendations. Give them more than one. Say, here's 3 inspectors that I highly recommend. Because where we get in trouble is, oh, I always use Semperfi. Use Semperfi, they're great. Well, you know what? Maybe something was missed. All of a sudden, everyone's getting sued, and you're liable because you only gave them one option for an inspector, and you scheduled it because it was easy to schedule online with Semperfi. Right? So make sure that the client is the one leading the boat or the train or whatever in the decision as to which you're using and what time, and that you provide at least 3 options for them.
And that form,
Your
they
friends,
choose not to do the inspection,
Oh.
make sure that they sign that form.
Say that a little louder, Diane.
Oh, it's the, inspector information from Trek. If your buyers decide not to do an inspection, I had one, do a termite inspection and no home inspection. You know, so if they choose not to do an inspection, you gotta have them sign that form.
There's
Because when they get moved in and see all this stuff going on, guess where they're coming?
Yeah, there is a form for, I asked you to do a home inspection and you chose not to. So
Sign
make
it.
sure that you sign up. Janae, what were you saying?
yeah, I was just gonna say, so you were saying absolutely don't schedule that, because I do that as a service.
No,
to-
what I'm saying is don't just say, I scheduled it Tuesday at noon
With this company.
with this company.
Oh,
It's,
I never do that.
I
I
know.
just,
Oh, no.
yeah, okay.
I'm saying collaborate and talk about it. Hey, when are you available?
Absolutely.
Here are some options. I see they have openings at 1, at 2, and at 4. What works best for you, right? Collaborate with them. Don't just take charge and say, oh, I did it. It's done. This is when we're doing it, right? Make sure that you do that. And either way, they need to pay the inspector, so it's good for them. Some of them will take the payment over the phone, those kinds of things, so that they can do it in advance. So don't attend the entire inspection. Why?
Drives them crazy.
It tries the inspectors up
That's like
hours, right? It's like 3 hours, 4 hours depending on the size of the house. Just show up for the last 30 minutes. They'll walk you through it. Do attend the last 30 minutes. See? That's what I said. Don't recommend bypassing the inspection even on a new build, right? Oh, it's a new build. We don't need it. You're good to go. Highland's a good builder, right? Don't do that. Offer it to them and let them decide what their comfort level is. Do provide the for your protection, get a home inspection. So this is like, especially if they're saying we don't need here's disclosure of why I think you should get one, and here's the form saying you didn't want one. Okay? So, active pipe and Moxie Engage. One of the biggest complaints I've gotten is, when is Active Pipe going to talk to Moxie Engage? Soon. Very, very soon. We're going to get an email, and I don't know when. It's not clear. A crystal ball says, right, that we'll get an email that is going to migrate the two. So make sure that you pay attention to your company news and Ltre. Shane Taylor thinks we're awesome. Off to the races was a lot of fun. Shane, tell us about your experience.
You got a lot of money.
So they gave me $5 in.
I didn't know it did that.
Had to be there.
But they gave you $5.
So they gave me $5, and I converted that into $92.
Yeah.
Nice.
They gave you $5 and I gave $2.
Yeah, what we end up making?
Like, it's like $2.
I did. I did.
Say a word.
That's
good. I'm glad.
Am I supposed to take that 92 and turn it into Bitcoin?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So, webmail. A couple things. You get there through back agent or webmail.judgefight.com, right? That's the best way to get there. So in your links you can find it. A lot of you said you've had issues with spam and junk. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is that you have to make sure if you're finding that that's happening to someone that you want to get emails from. So for example, Crystal Amador, that was happening to me. I had to flag her as a trusted sender so that it didn't keep happening. Okay. So make sure that you go into that spam, especially if you use Outlook. This is going to happen to you more than not, just based on the way the filters are set up. And make sure you set them up as a trusted sender if you see that happening. There's also issues with multiple attachments and sizes. So sometimes with offers, right, if they send 20 documents in individual files, it may think that it's a spam. So make sure if you've got a listing that you're also checking your spam pretty regularly, because you don't know how that agent is sending it, okay?
What about ours going into spam?
Well, this,
Ours have.
yeah, and I think this is something that we're just gonna have to deal with as an industry, because we do a lot of email marketing, right? And we also have large files that we send and pictures and images and things like that. And so the third parties that are trying to do more email protection, the way that IT's functioning a little bit in the email world, is creating some of these kinds of things to our issues. So best practice, if you send an offer or you have an important email come out, make sure you call, make sure you text, confirm that the agent received it, right? Because different email platforms have different levels of security. Okay, we have a very high level of security, so that is part of the challenges that we have with our emails. Okay.
Can you not also zip the docs together so they're not,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and that tends to help
yes.
a little bit when you send the zip file, but you also have to be cautious because some people don't know how to open a zip file, so then you get those kinds of emails, right? So just be aware that there are different levels of technology usage across the real estate industry. Okay?
When you send your offers, make it a point to call the other side to make sure they received your offer, because a lot of times it might be in their spam, or
Correct.
somebody made an offer to you, answer your phone, because it might be sitting in your spam as
Correct.
a better offer than what you're
And what I'm
executing.
starting to see is now that they changed the email or the way the names are at the bottom, I'm starting to get offers for your listings because they think I'm the listing agent. They aren't reading it correctly. So I probably once or twice a week get an offer that I have to
Yeah.
forward to someone because the buyer's agent didn't pay attention. So please don't do that.
I also had to reach out to my buyer's client after I executed the contract and sent everything back over to him. I went ahead and did the follow-up to make sure that he received it so that everything was communicated.
Correct.
It was in his spam.
Correct.
Yeah, it happens.
And so that happens, so be aware. Especially, like I said, if you see emails that have exclusive, those kinds of things. There's little triggers that may send things to spam based on the way spam filters are adjusting nowadays. So just be cautious. Passport to Paradise, I will be in Alaska next week. And I'll be alone because none of you decided to try to go with me. But I expect Costa Rica will be very different because everyone likes the beach, not everyone likes to go camping. So 20 vendors used, make sure you're tracking them so that you can get the trip. Kevin.
It
will be different.
Okay, first off, congratulations to Kevin, he had his first closing last week. Went smooth as could be, this week we have Janae and Josh, and Janae, we've talked to our buyer, everything will be on time. That's the value of working inside the office. We work together to try to do things. Our slides today have to do with transferring files. So my buyer is going with ABC Mortgage Company, and then later they don't like something about ABC Mortgage Company. So can they transfer the file? Yes, if an appraisal has been performed on FHA, the value stays with the property for 120 days. So a different question, you're on the listing side, and the buyer, you accept, for some reason, you accepted an FHA file. If you say, my seller is not going to adjust the price, the buyer wants their earnest money back, and then you want to go take another FHA contract, the house has already been appraised, they use that value for 120 days. So be very, very careful, work with your mentors and work with Francis, but make sure you don't make the same mistake twice and go, but the new guy is going to order another appraisal, his value is already assigned. And you look really not good in front of your seller, so just be very careful if that happens. Veteran file, you have a veteran that kicks out because of value, because of condition. He says, I'm walking away, I want my earnest money back, you can talk about that with Maddie. The problem is, when another veteran comes and you do take the same one, that house has already been assigned, so we have to show why it changed in value. That's when we present new comparables to the VA. If it's a conventional, it's totally different. Kevin, we had an appraisal done, but there's been other houses that have closed during this time, then we can order another appraisal. They're independent of each other. So the first appraisal was done by a buyer, the appraiser has to be paid for that one, or are we gonna transfer that file in? The appraiser needs to be paid, and then we're allowed to transfer that in with a letter from the buyer. So that's all that happens when you're transferring appraisals. It's not always as simple as, I'll just order another appraisal and get a higher value because more things have closed. Just be aware of that. At 1:30 last week, we had 6 people here. We learned about new marketing materials, something called Ribbon as well. I'm gonna bring a Ribbon advisor here, and we'll do it in June. I'll coordinate it with Francis and Shane, but we're gonna have a Ribbon advisor here for a lunch and learn, a 1.5 hour deal or something like that. It's a good product, we're using it for cash offers, but it's good to know and you can hear from them. I also have materials on it, and I thank you all for who showed up last week. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
And for those of you, these are the agents that
Oh, yes.
are up for the gas card. So thank you, Janae, Shane, Manisha, Kevin, Amy, Maria, Kelsey, Sharon, Nick, and Chris. Good luck.
And what that is, just so you know, because Angela asked me, is every month we turn those into the Connections gas card drawing, and then Francis goes to a meeting and then they draw the numbers then. So if she doesn't tell us that we have a winner, then we didn't win on that particular part of it.
But it's all of the offices.
It's
not just-
Connections for any roof vendors, anybody that you put in Connections, you automatically get a drawing for a $50 gas card, an entry.
All right, Ms. Maddie, tell us about the Constitution.
Okay, don't change it. Does anybody know what,
1775.
okay, does anybody know the constitutional, I guess, propositions that that were supposed to be voted for by like May 7th? Anybody have any?
Is that the
Prop 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, do y'all have any information on what that is?
Yeah, one of them is increasing the homestead exemption from 24,000 to 40,000.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Anybody know what the other one was?
Schools.
To help people with disabilities and seniors, I believe, dropping their, or giving them a higher exemption.
Exactly. So there's one related to over 65, and then there's one related to the schools is the homestead exemption one.
Can I change
So
it now?
yeah, you can change it now. So this one, Proposition 1, is going to basically take the frozen tax values, and if the school taxes went down that year, it will reduce their tax value. So it gives them the opportunity to actually get a reduction in their taxes. So there was, I think, an 85% like voted on it or something, like on 85% of the people said yes to it, which I don't know what happened to the
That's
other or
good.
not. But there you go.
So did they pass or not?
Yes, they
Yes.
both passed. They both passed. So the next
The
one,
85% mark.
yes, the next one is going to talk about that school one. So basically what they're taking is they are taking if you have a homestead exemption on the property, the reduction for the school taxes went from $25,000 to $40,000. Now, how does this make sense? Does anybody know how the tax math works? And I say that, but I'm gonna explain it to you. Okay, so your property is assessed at $400,000, right? Each exemption is valued at a certain amount of a reduction of that assessment. So they say, okay, your home is worth $400,000 according to the tax rolls, and you are taxed by the city of McKinney, Collin County, and then McKinney ISD or whatever, right? So McKinney ISD will value you a $40,000 reduction of $400,000. Now you take, I'm really bad at math, what is that, 360. The wrong way. 360 is your new assessed value. Multiply that by your tax rate, you have an estimate for your taxes. So that's one of the many exemptions that are out there, but that is again just for the school exemption. So you still can get, maybe city or county, whatever that specific area is offering. So this is reducing the amount that people are paying in taxes by hundreds of dollars.
The one question I had, Maddie, was, does each taxing authority therefore have different values that they're taxing?
She looks European.
If I understand your question,
So
it's the
different.
value of your property, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but if you're saying they'll reduce the value by 40,000 for the tax, the city may not reduce it by that much. So would the city have a different valuation than the county?
Well, this is the school taxes, not
Well,
the city.
But I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So the school tax rate would be off a different value than possibly the city rate.
Kind of.
That's what
I think I get where you're going. So all of the school reductions are increased to 40,000.
Right.
City of McKinney for a homestead exemption may only be 8,000, whereas Carrollton may be 10,000. So yes, if that's your question.
Well, no, it's more so like, okay, I have this $400,000 house.
Okay.
I'm being taxed by the city of McKinney and the school district of McKinney.
Yes.
Right? And they're valuing me, will there be a difference in the assessed value from the city of McKinney versus the school district of McKinney?
No, the county assesses the value of the home completely.
Okay.
So what you're talking about are the reductions
Right.
in the
That's where I
assessments.
got confused.
Yes, so the county says your home is worth $400,000. The city, anything else, they don't care about that. They go off the county assessments.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is also what you want to fight because taxes are going up. Don't pay the man. But the point of all of that is to reach out to your people. Make sure they have a homestead exemption. If you have new buyers, new legislation, whatever, went into effect, and you can go ahead and apply for it. Make sure your people have a homestead because also the county can increase their amounts more than 10%. It saves them money. They love you.
If it's not homestead, it's not capped.
Exactly. You don't get a cap. So your taxes.
So your investor clients, they need to be aware and be sure that they fight their assessments.
Thank you, Oscar.
Maddie, are you open to us having any clients that have a conversation with you or Tara about this?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Have them ask us questions. We can help guide them to the forms. I think as a realtor, y'all need to understand where to find those forms, and we're happy to explain that too. But yes.
Oh, okay.
We can't read it, and
Do what?
we can't read it.
You don't need to, I'm gonna explain everything. My mom, Dana, you know, she's outside, she's your normal rep from Proco, I'm Annie.
Our favorite.
We had a hailstorm last night, so her phone is blowing up like bananas, so she will be in and out, but I can take care of it. So, for those of you who do not know, we are with Proco Roofing, we're one of your diamond sponsors. So kind of what we do, whenever you guys are listing, buying a house, we wanna get out there and inspect the roof within 24 hours of the time you call us. Typically, we like to do it the same day. We understand the timelines and we like to do things in an urgent matter, just like you guys need. So what we provide when we get out there and inspect is a tiny little home inspection report. It's gonna have all the information about what is going on with your roof. It's gonna have, you know, the type of roof, what we found, all of the details you guys need to know. And then on this side, it'll have 3 options, either repair, a replacement, or a cast. If it is a repair, it's gonna have a list of what we think needs repaired, you know, a broken turbine or a flashing, and it'll have a list with a price next to it so that you don't have to track down an estimate. If it's a replacement, we'll talk to you about it. If it is a cash, if we don't think it's something that insurance could potentially cover, we'll work on getting you an estimate. If it's something that looks like storm damage or something insurance would cover, we'll get you that date of loss that you need to file a claim. And then also, we will give you pictures of what we see so that you don't have to take our word for it. Pictures of all the slopes, the damage we find, anything you would need to know so that it is a negotiation tool for you guys, and it's not just kind of our word, it's the pictures of what we found. So, this is what we provide, and we like to get it to the day that we actually
Those
do
of
the
you who are
inspection.
new, you may not realize how unique that is to get the pictures and the full-blown report and that kind of stuff, because sometimes you just get fail, here's the bid,
Yeah.
no details, right? So the fact that they break that down is really neat.
It's amazing. Sometimes you only get a phone call too.
Right.
Hey, the roof's fine. See ya.
We like to do all of the above. So for us, our company started with the idea of doing things differently. So the 2 guys who started the company came from previous big roofing companies, didn't really like it. They both left the industry for a long time and came back and restarted something with the intention of doing it differently. Customer service, quality, all of the big things that the industry typically does not stand for. We like to make it a big deal. So, being said, I brought this, I feel like this is show and tell,
It's
but
like
it's
almost as
pretty
easy as.
pretty stinking cool. So, GAF, they launched a solar shingle. So this is an actual shingle. Instead of a solar panel on a house, this is kind of the new wave of technology for solar. So it started in California. California is typically pretty maxed out on their solar. I think everyone is pretty much solar. Everyone is pretty much solar, but this is the new technology. So this actually nails down to the deck of the roof. It's not one of the panels that are raised and stuff gets stuck underneath it. It has the same, you know, it generates the same amount of energy, and they have a special shingle that is installed with it. It's super cool. It's a super easy process, but I think we're one of 5 companies in the area that was chosen to help them launch this. So
the upside or the downside?
it goes like this.
Because then you'll have the little, I know, but is it, what do you see
Yeah,
from the roof? This
You see
side
this.
or-
This is the actual panel right here, and this goes underneath, so there will be one on top of it. Yeah.
So it's
So you
much
can layer it.
prettier.
Yeah.
I hear that's kind of the. And is it easy to take off?
No,
But then that's what.
Yeah, it's the same process, so if it gets damaged by a storm, it would be covered by insurance as part of the roofing materials, just like solar panels are also covered by insurance right now. They'll pay to remove them, replace them, but it's the same thing. It's pretty darn cool. So the only thing we need to get it, so there's an entire team in California that when we have somebody who wants to get an estimate, we pull an electric bill, we send it to them, and then they essentially map out the house, figure out what parts of the roof can allow for the solar shingle, and then they'll calculate how much wattage you actually get on your monthly, according to your monthly bill, and it's like kind of mind blowing, and I'm learning a lot about it because I didn't know a ton about solar, but it's pretty stinking cool. So
Amy, random question on
Yeah.
those, do they lease or they own? And how does the cost compare?
that is the hardest question to answer.
Right.
It all depends on how much your roof can take. So like it has to be, you know, the correct slope, and they will determine how much wattage, and then it's kind of priced by wattage.
Okay.
So we would just have to price it out. And it does have battery options as well, because I know some people, you know, a big question was, well, what happens if the grid goes out like it did in Snowmageddon? Well, if you don't have a battery, then you're kind of still in the same situation because you're running off the grid.
Right.
But they have options where you can buy batteries for your house, to where if something happens, you can run off your own solar energy, which is pretty cool.
But that's kind of nice that
Yeah.
you can either pay it back towards the
Yeah.
grid or store.
Yeah, and Texas is a little bit different because we have our own grid, so it just depends on your power company, quite honestly, and what they allow, and sometimes it's by city. I mean, there's a lot of.
So
Yeah.
those are much cleaner
Yes.
than your traditional
Yep.
ones. Cities that may have solar panel restrictions.
Or HOAs.
may
Yes.
make exceptions for this because it looks very different.
We have been battling a Westlake
Yeah.
HOA for, I don't know, forever. And they didn't approve any shingle underneath the sun. Then we got access to this in February,
And presented
I think. And so we presented to their HOA, I wanna say 2 weeks ago, and they
Yeah.
approved it, which is like,
Because it looks like a normal
Yeah.
roof for the most
Yeah.
part.
it really does.
Yeah.
We've got tons of pictures of this on our
Yeah.
Facebook page, our social media, so y'all go check it out. It's pretty stinking cool.
Yeah. So, you know, if you do have someone who's interested, like this is actually really unique in the fact
It
that
is.
you're like 1 in 5.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's a lot of faith that they put in us, so we appreciate it. And then we also have a pest control division now. So for all of you guys who need it, we've got this. We've got some flyers. We're finally licensed. You know, the state involves a lot of licensing involved and all that stuff.
So pest control, is that like a monthly service that you guys do?
We've got a whole list.
You come out
So-
like bi-weekly, or I mean bi-monthly?
Yeah, for mosquitoes, they start coming actually our houses.
Luckily, pest control is quarterly.
It's quarterly, or it can be whatever you
Yeah,
want.
quarterly, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are more than just roofs now.
Yeah, we've been working on this for,
Well-
Taylor's been working on this for about a year. So we're finally at to the point where
And you may have a surprise for me in a few months regarding Boots and Barbecue, but I'm not gonna say more.
oh yeah. Cool, okay, any questions?
How much is the WDI report for a VA loan?
I just learned that, hold on, I wrote it down. I think you're right, I think it is 250.
I see my notes in my notebook.
Okay.
We'll come look at it for free, obviously, to determine, but our official report, we just had this meeting on Monday.
It's probably 250, it's pretty standard.
I think it's
Okay.
pretty good.
Yeah, 250, WEI,
Okay.
you're right.
Anybody else? No?
They do that.
Thank you guys.
Cool.
And thank you for providing lunch.
Yes, it's from our favorite, from the place that catered my wedding. It's really good. It's called Los Amigos. Yeah.
Awesome. So Judge Frank Insurance, thank you to Kevin, Jackie, Jason, Caitlin, Thompson, Dale, Sierra, Shane, Chantil, Sheen, Terry, Stacy, Heather, Terry, Abraham, Sheila, I think I had her in there twice, maybe, no? John, Janae, Scott, and Kevin for your referrals. And upcoming dates, Moxie Engage trainings are in the afternoon. If you're wanting to jump into some of those live website trainings with Cassie, they are via Zoom. And then there's not much going on next week. It's gonna be a little weird because I'm gonna be gone. Shane is gonna be doing a lot of his normal stuff, but be nice to Shane and Gigi next week. And headshots will be at Lake Highlands. If you're needing them, career event, please invite people to it. There will be remember, if you refer agents to the company, you get a 2% of their company dollar for their whole life with the company.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
I love that word, by
So
the
this
way.
is a good way for you guys to help me bring in quality people that will fit our culture, okay? With that, in our office this week, we've got Let's Talk
Motion
Real
to
Estate. Kevin is staying
10%
after this
return
for the finance update. Solution Group is on
In
Tuesday.
Bitcoin.
DT is doing their lunch and learn, and basically I'm gonna be nice to Maddie, and I'm just gonna take over. Bring your computers, it's gonna be a working lunch, we're gonna work on setting up our Moxie, okay? And we're just gonna help each other out and make it work, and Maddie's gonna be us, okay? And then we've got Power Hour, thank you Carrie and Josh for all your help the last couple weeks.
I can't. I will be gone.
But power hour this week at 11, and then morning brew Friday at 10. I heard it was a really great discussion at Pancake House, so thank you for that.
We missed you. Is it gonna be there again?
Probably not. My pocketbook can't do that.
Yeah, location to be determined at this exact moment in time. We have some options.
We have options. We're discussing options.
Right. We're
It'll be something that's a little less fancy, more like coffee, not like breakfast.
Correct. we're really leaning into the brew of it all, right? So quality service, guys, yay! I'm excited.
Hey, so when did that happen? Because last.
Because they used the wrong info. They
Okay.
used so yesterday, Thursday, I was like upset because I was like, we were at 97, what in the world? But then I went last night and we're doing really well. So I'm excited. Great job, guys. And testimonials, Tommy Lim. I'm so thankful for Tommy. He has helped me with his sincere heart and willingness to help. He's amazing. We all know that. Recognition, y'all ready? Amy Herzog, April, top listing rep by unit. Seth, top listing rookie by unit. We have Amy, top listing rep by volume, and Seth is also the top listing rep by volume. 2+ listings, Amy, Caitlin, Tom. Top written rep by AGC was Amy. Top written rookie by AGC was Tommy. Top written rep by units was Amy, but you know, it was also Tommy. Top written rookie by units. 2+ written awards, Amy, Terry, Josh, Terry, Chris, Sheila, Caitlin, Shane, Tommy, Ibrahim, and Audrey. And the top closing rep by AGC was Amy. The top closing rookie by AGC was Tommy. By units and closed, it was Amy. But the rookie was Sierra. And 2+ closing words, Amy, Caitlin, Heather, Sierra, Sam, Shane, Ibrahim, Terry, Ben, Tommy, Tom. And judged by touchdown awards. So this is 2+ written, 2+ closed, 2+ listed, right? Yeah. The 2 2s?
Yep.
Okay, Amy and Caitlin. And top April by sales volume. Amy, Ben, Caitlin, Terry, Sam, Shane, Ibrahim, Heather, Tom, Tommy, Stacy, Diane. Congratulations.
Hey.
By units, it was Amy, Ibrahim, Caitlin, Terry, Heather, Ben, Shane, Sierra, Tommy, Sam, Tom, and And in case you were wondering, I checked in with our national stats. We are number 60 in the nation for all Century 21.
That's just this office, by the way. That's not Judge Fight Company.
No, that's us here in Frisco. We're 60.
That's unbelievable.
In Texas, guess what? And number 1 and 2 are actually brokers. It's
That's right.
Bowman and Beal.
Yep, they don't count.
They don't